Last weekend was my first jigsaw puzzle competition ever, New Zealand Masters Games in Whanganui, and I still can't believe it, I actually won the gold medal! Yes! And in this video I want to show you what my experience was at the Masters Games with the competition and all the emotions that went with it. Enjoy! To attend the New Zealand Masters Games, we were heading to Whanganui on Friday last week. It's maybe a 3-hour drive. Whanganui is a town on the North Island in New Zealand. Then we headed to the campground, arrived there by maybe like 12 o'clock, put our tent up and then took the bikes on a nice bike ride along the coast and then the river to the centre of Whanganui, which was probably maybe like 8 to 10 kilometers away. We headed straight to the Games Village, which is in the War Memorial Centre, so really central in town. To my surprise, there was pretty much nobody there. I mean, the reason we took the bikes is because I thought parking would be a nightmare because it's a huge event, but there was nobody around. We could have parked just in front of it. So we headed inside and then upstairs for the registration. There were 2 people there to get people to register. But even, yeah, I mean, they looked like they were bored all day. It was really strange. So Saturday, 8th of February, we put on the alarm way too early, then cycled back into town to the Games Village in the War Memorial Centre, headed upstairs to the main hall. The doors were still closed when we arrived there. It was maybe like 10 past 8, I'd say. The race was scheduled to start at 9 o'clock. So we still had more than like almost an hour to go. There were 2 other people there that we had a lovely chat to. It was nice to talk to some other puzzlers and also help with the nervousness. I tried to figure out where the nearest toilets are, and they were, like, the doors were still closed, but the doors had glass in them so you could see inside. So the tables were already all set up and the puzzles were already on the tables. So once we could finally get inside, maybe like 8:30, I learned that the tables would not be assigned, but you choose your own. So I was wondering how you actually choose your table. So I thought, I mean, there were 5 rows of 9 tables each, so 45 people. Yeah, 45 people, that's about right. And then there was a row of chairs all the way around. So I thought I wouldn't take the outside rows because then the spectators would be really close and I thought that would be distracting. So I thought I'll take either the middle row or like one of the 3 middle rows really. And then I noticed that some of the tables were white and they were really large, and then there were other tables that were a bit smaller but they were grey. And because the puzzles were already on the table, I mean, they were upside down so you couldn't see the picture, but you could sneak on the side and see on the side a little small image. I couldn't really make out what it was, but I could see it's a photograph, and it would be a lot of white and a lot of green, so sky and trees. And because there was so much white on that little image that I had a peek on, I thought I'd go on the grey tables. I thought even the grey table was quite plenty in size, so I thought don't need the extra size that the white tables would give me, but I could definitely use the contrast of the grey table. So that's why I chose a grey table. Later on I chatted to people and they didn't even notice there were different tables, but I did my research and I went for one of the grey tables. So then, still plenty of time until the race started. I started chatting with the lady that was sitting in front of me. Christine from Auckland was really nice company, and yeah, it was really cool to see what other people do and what the experiences are of different people. And together we figured out that the chairs were really uncomfortable while we were waiting, because the way you were sitting on them, the seat wasn't flat, it was kind of tilted backwards. So if you're in an audience and you're spectating something, that's the ideal chair. But for a puzzle it wasn't, so you had to sit on the front kind of edge to be upright, and it was really weird. And then my lovely husband went downstairs and organised pillows for us, so for me and Christine in front of me. And I definitely used it, you can see it in the footage, and I really needed those chairs. They really kill you after a while. Then, while still chatting, suddenly there was a man on the microphone, so you could hear the sound coming from the front, but I didn't see anyone in the front and figure out the person was in the corner in the back. That was already a bit strange. But the person was saying, okay, we'll start in 3 minutes. Like without many emotions and without any welcome, no explanation of the rules. There was no mention if there would be any prize giving or really any of the details, which was so strange. Bang on 9 o'clock, the announcement was, okay, we'll start now. And we were like, is that it? Or is that just a warning? Or did we already start? And while I was thinking that, being confused, they would tip the bell, you know, the bell that like hotels have on the reception if nobody's at reception. So then the bell rang and I was like, okay, now we really start. But I found it a very confusing way. There was no countdown or nothing. And there was also no official race clock in the room. I mean, there was no clock in the room, full stop. So I was a bit confused with that. And later on, I was talking to Michael, who was sitting behind me, and he was reporting the same, that he was quite confused about the starting procedure. But in saying that, with a 1,000-piece puzzle, the race is so long that a few seconds maybe don't matter as much as if it was a smaller puzzle. So I think it didn't matter, but I was really confused with that. When the start was going on, like when we actually figured it out, so I had scissors to get the wrap off, and then opened the box, got scissors to get the plastic bag inside off. And then it was death silence. So I was really expecting the whole room to be noisy. But in the beginning, it was so quiet. It was really surreal. People started flipping all the pieces. I mean, I started flipping all the pieces as well. And that flipping of the pieces was the only sound there was in the room. It was so surreal. It was so weird. Like, I can't even describe that properly, and I don't think that my audio from the day kind of captures that properly. I've seen footage of the Worlds, and there are so many spectators, and it's loud, and people cheering, and people, like, shouting and talking, but that one was so quiet. I was not prepared for that. As I was saying, when I was starting to puzzle, I started flipping all the pieces over. Then I decided to do a full sort. So you can see the image. I sorted out the bridge and the steamer, and then I sorted out all the white and then all the green, and of course the edge separately. So then I started with the bridge, then I did the boat, and then I did the edge, but with the edge I was struggling a lot. For one, I didn't sort properly, so I had a lot of green off the edge missing, but then also the white, like somehow it didn't make a square. The white was feeling like something's missing, but it didn't. I didn't have any white left. So yeah, I was really confused with the edge, so I left it for later. It took me forever to finish the edge, like embarrassingly long. But so then I did continue on the white, which I later on heard was quite unusual. It seems like most people left the white till last. I thought the white is smaller than all the green, which is why I went for white first. But most of the people went for green first. But I mean, personal preference, there's no right or wrong really. And then from the white, I went then to the blurry of the water. And then the bush here went up to the darker ones and then finished kind of up here somewhere in the trees. What I thought was really interesting was that people were allowed to freely roam in the room. So in the beginning, so my husband was in the audience. In the beginning, he was only outside, like where the chairs were, where I expected that spectators would be allowed. But then later on, when he walked in and out, someone else walked in and she asked the organizers at the front, like they had a little reception desk on the door, and that person asked them if it was okay to roam in the middle. And then they said, yeah, of course, you can walk wherever. And then my husband also started walking into the middle, and a lot of people started walking into the middle, and I thought it was quite distracting because you're trying to focus and there are people walking back and forth all the time. I mean, there wasn't a huge amount of people, but there were people walking there, which you need to get used to, definitely. And people are whispering, but you can't understand what they're saying because they're whispering. And it's also, I mean, I knew that, but it's another thing to actually experience it, is that you don't actually know where you're standing in the competition. So while you're puzzling, you're focused on your puzzle, but you have no time to look around and see what progress other people have. So you can maybe look at the person in front of you and maybe the person to the left of you. Because I was sitting quite far forward and there were some empty tables in the front. There weren't that many people that I could actually see on the table, so I actually only could see two people, the lady in front of me, Christine, and the lady to my left. I don't actually know what her name is. So you don't actually know. Like you're thinking, like I had my phone on the table and I had to look at the clock every now and then, but Michael behind me was saying that he had no idea what time it was. There was a church bell chiming every 15 minutes, which was also quite weird because every time it felt like it was chiming all the time. And every time you think like, oh, is another 15 minutes gone, another 15 minutes gone. And it feels like the time's just slipping through your fingers and you feel like a sense of urgency and hurry and you get nervous and it's quite nerve-wracking. But yeah, you don't really know where you are. And at some stage, I had the feeling that I needed to go to the bathroom, but looking at my pieces that I still had left, I thought it would be maybe another hour or so. So I thought like, I'll ignore it and I won't go to the bathroom. And because of that, I decided not to drink much anymore because otherwise that problem just gets worse. So yeah, I'm not sure if that was a good strategy or not. I also started to get hungry at some stage, but I thought I was way too far into it to actually have a break and eat something, drink something, go to the bathroom, because there is no scheduled break. Like if you do any of those things, the clock just keeps ticking and people are just continuing, like they're not waiting for you. So I decided not to do any of that. And saying that, I also got more and more miserable because of hungry, thirsty, bathroom break, not being on a bathroom break. And then also I got at least 3 to 5 times I got a really mild, like not so mild panic attack because I was convinced that there was pieces missing, because I was looking for a specific piece and it was just not there. And like all the white pieces left, it wasn't one of them, so I was convinced it wasn't there. And I thought like, oh my god, it's a brand new puzzle, like sure the quality is alright, I mean the pieces, the quality was alright. And surely there is no piece missing, it's a brand new puzzle, like what happens in your head, like you won't see that on, like you can't see that on the footage, but like what's happening in your head is completely out of this world, like all the things you're making up. Obviously there was no piece missing, I just didn't sort properly, but you know, panic attack. And later on I heard some people, like spectators walking around, I heard someone whispering that 3 people were quite close together, and I had maybe half an hour left, I would say. I mean, it's hard to judge, but you kind of know by the amount of pieces you have left. So I started to get even more nervous and more people were gathering around my table. So I thought I must be one of those 3 because otherwise people wouldn't come to my table and kind of linger around my table. So in the end, I mean, the event wasn't hugely popular. And as I was saying, the game village was quite empty. But in the end, I think you can see that on the footage, there were maybe like 20 to 25 people around me, like left and right, kind of in a circle around my table. And I was getting even more nervous and I started to shake quite badly. And I was also starting to imagine what would happen when I finish. Like, would these people actually cheer? Would someone else finish in front of me and they cheer for them? And when I finish, nobody cares? Or like, what would they applaud? Would they talk to me? I don't know. I've never been in the competition, so my mind started wandering off. And it felt a bit like, I'm not sure if you ever ran a marathon, but when you're in a marathon and you've been running for quite a while, you kind of can't imagine what it would feel like once you finish. Like you're trying to imagine the finish line, but you kind of can't imagine ever stopping again and not having to run again. And that's what it kind of felt like. You've been puzzling so long. I mean, to be honest, the time of a marathon and the time of this puzzle was pretty much kind of comparable. So I was trying to imagine what would happen if I finish. Like, my hands got shaky even more and I finally smashed the last piece into place and people actually started cheering. I did win, so I got first place, so I was so happy. So my time was 3 hours and 40 minutes, which means it was 40 past 12. No, 22, however you say that. 12:40 was the time that I finished, so 3 hours and 40 minutes. And I was so proud of myself and I was shaking. I was sitting back on that uncomfortable chair and I was so relieved, but still shaking so badly. So I grabbed my water bottle, was drinking something with my shaky hands. Like, you could not imagine the state I was in. It was so bad. I could hardly put the cap back onto the bottle. and I got a muesli bar out of the bag, but I couldn't open the wrapper because I was shaking so much. It was incredible. And then people, I think it was the organizer who came to me first and congratulated, and then was asking my name to write that down on the official paper, and then people asking me how it was, and I didn't feel ready for that, and because the competition was still going on, like everyone else was still puzzling, I decided to leave the room and go to the foyer. And once I went to the foyer, I kind of remember I had to go to the bathroom real bad, so I went to the bathroom, and because of that I had forgotten to even take a picture of the puzzle, and it all went so far. It was just so overwhelming, oh my god. And then we tried to find out, so another friend of mine had arrived by then, so the three of us, we tried to find out when the prize giving would be, so when we would be expected to come back, because we wanted to head out for lunch, because I was also quite hungry. So we asked a few of the officials, and we asked 3 people, got 3 different answers, so it was a bit confusing. The official cut-off time was 4 p.m, so we thought like we'll just come back maybe 3:30 or something like that. So we headed out for lunch, had banh mi in town, and then we're sitting on the side of the river for a while. I had some cake and fruits. It was really nice, I really enjoyed that. It helped me to calm down a little, like being removed from the competition. That was quite good. Then after a while we went back to the hall. So it wasn't 3:30 yet, maybe 2 o'clock or something. So we headed back to the main hall. People were still puzzling. So we started to box the puzzle back into, like put the puzzle back into the box. But I didn't want to throw it together. Like we carefully put it in like several plates and moved it in so I can put it back together at home a little bit easier. And then we waited downstairs in the games village. There were like really nice beanbags and chairs and stuff. So we were sitting around there. And because it was on the exit from when you come down from the main hall, like whenever someone had finished their puzzle, they kind of passed through, and then we had a little chat with all the people, and they kind of were sitting with us. And so Michael and his wife, so Michael came second, and he and his wife were sitting with us for quite a while. We had a really lovely chat with them, so fun, these people, and it was really nice, so we were hanging around there. So once the official cut-off time had come, 4 p.m, we were heading upstairs, so the 3 of us, Michael and his wife, and there were maybe still another 20 people puzzling, so half the people, like, there were 45 tables, but 4 people didn't show up, so it was 41. In the official results, there are only 38. I'm not quite sure. Maybe there were even less. I don't know. Something between 38 and 41 people were there. And half of them were still puzzling by the cutoff time. So by the cutoff time, they were announcing tools down, that's it. So everyone started packing up and leaving. There was one lady who continued puzzling because she was really close. So she finished at 4:15, and everyone who was still there was applauding. It was really cool. I liked that. But people were packing up and leaving, and we were asking like when the prize giving would be, and they were saying at 4:30, and people were packing up and leaving, and by 4:30 it was nobody left. So it was the 3 of us, so me, my husband, and my friend, and it was Michael and his wife, and then Kati, who came third, her husband and her daughter. So that was the only people who were still there. Everyone else had left. So we worked out that we had to wait until 4:30 for the official photographer to join. But anyway, so they put the sign in front of the curtain and gave us the medals, and there wasn't even a proper speech or anything. It was really strange, and I didn't even think that the photo opportunity of giving us the medals was particularly good. Yeah, anyway, so they gave us the medals, and it was really strange because we were waiting there and nobody was there. It was really weird. So then the event was officially over, and we headed downstairs. And downstairs in the games village, there is a podium, like the 1, 2, 3 step thingy. And because Michael was still behind me and Kati was also there, I was like, oh, let's just have our own photos on that podium because that looks so much nicer. And yeah, so without the official photographer and without the organizers, we just on our own took these photos here, which I thought was so much nicer and so much better than the actual prize giving. But yeah, that was a bit strange. That was definitely strange. Yeah, so that was my experience with the Masters Games and my first ever jigsaw puzzle competition with my gold medal. Yeah, I haven't really talked about the image much yet. As you can see, the image is very difficult. I guess that was playing in my advantage because I think I'm better with the difficult ones rather than with the fast ones. So my brain works faster than my fingers, I guess. But everyone I talked to agreed that the choice of image wasn't great. It was very hard. More than half the people didn't finish, although the cutoff was 7 hours, so I think there was quite plenty. But increasing the number of hours wouldn't have changed it. It's just too much. And yeah, so if you go for a 1,000-piece puzzle, which I like because I'm better with 1,000-piece puzzle, it would maybe make sense to have an easier image than that. But in saying that, because it was hard, I probably won. And if you have such a hard puzzle, such a hard image on the puzzle, maybe choose something more pretty. I mean, maybe something with nice weather and more boat and less green. I don't know, like any postcard in the shops is nicer than that. Well, I think it's very hard for a picture that's not worth it, if you know what I mean. Like, if I have a really hard image, I want to have something pretty in the end, but yeah, well, I wouldn't have chosen that image, but I should be grateful because I think because of the way the image was, I did win this lovely medal. Yeah, cool. That was me and my experiences with the New Zealand Masters Games, my first jigsaw puzzle competition. Stay tuned and subscribe because I'm signed up for the Hawke's Bay Regionals. I'm gonna go, so that's in May, and then I'm gonna go to Auckland to the National Championship in July. And I've also signed up for the World Championship in Spain in September. So stay tuned and I hope you're going to join me for these adventures as well. See you next time.